Tonight, on First at 9 this Thursday the 9th of October 2025. IMF scrutiny. Sri Lanka reaches staff-level agreement with the IMF on the 5th review under the Extended Fund Facility. 6th tranche disbursement pending Executive Board approval. IMF to review Sri Lanka's electricity tariff mechanism. Standing strong. Sri Lanka should not bow down to the whims of the IMF or foreign nations, says the Cardinal. Easter confusion. MP Nizam Karyappar claims that Public Security Secretary Ravi Seneviratne confirmed that the mastermind behind the Easter attack has been identified. Police denies claim. No interference. Sri Lanka rejects all external probes into alleged human rights violations. Foreign Minister assures Parliament.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
Homelands Expo 2025 Property Investment Forum and Exhibition. Join us on 11th October, Hilton, Colombo, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 0710 111 444.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're joining First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Taking you to your top story this evening, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit asserts that Sri Lanka should not meekly follow the conditions imposed by the International Monetary Fund, nor blindly follow Western ideologies, as doing so undermines the nation's dignity. He made these remarks during the Thanksgiving service held today as part of the multi-faith program celebrating the 20th anniversary of TV Derana.
Celebrations for the Derana Media Network's 20th anniversary continued today with a Thanksgiving service at the Cardinal's house in Colombo, presided over by Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit. In attendance were the Derana Media Network's founder, parliamentarian and entrepreneur Dilip Jayavira, Deputy Chairman Laksiri Wickremage, Executive Director Madhava Madavala, members of the Board of Directors, senior management and Derana staff.
වසර 20ක් කියලා කියන්නේ ඉතිහාසය තුල බලන කල ඊටාම කෙටි කාලයක්.
Historically speaking, 20 years is a short time. However, when considering a human lifetime, it is quite a long period. The past 20 years of Sri Lankan history have been marked by social, religious and economic chaos. During this time, the Derana Media Network actively and honestly contributed to raising public awareness about the country's reality. We express our gratitude to God for the service this media network has rendered to the country. We would also like to extend our appreciation and respect to the founder Dilip Jayavira and the network's leadership. We must acknowledge that the history, civility and culture of this country have been built upon Buddhist philosophy, which is one of the major legacies inherited by this nation. With a heritage spanning 2,600 to 2,700 years, we have the wisdom to discern whether foreign influences are beneficial or detrimental to us. It is demeaning to our self-esteem to blindly follow Western ideologies like slaves. Many in our society are crushed by poverty. We are not against obtaining foreign loans. However, if we do take loans, we must also take steps to repay our debts. I do not criticize the need to agree to the conditions set by the International Monetary Fund. However, we must not become slaves to the IMF. They do not understand the poverty faced by our citizens. We must take action to change these conditions. On the other hand, we must take action to avoid altering our culture based on suggestions made by the IMF or other organizations and instead follow methods that suit our own culture, spirituality and religion. Many of the proposals expected to be presented by the government make it seem like something terrible is happening right now. For instance, a law is set to be implemented due to foreign influence, which would allow children to file complaints with the police and take legal action against their parents for scolding them. If we try to do things in this manner, what is the future of our children? We need to have the strength to guide them. Are these laws suitable for our country? Did we ever request such changes while transforming our social system? No, we did not. Therefore, I urge journalists to inform the public and encourage them to reject these harmful laws that are being introduced to destroy our nation. That is your responsibility. We also ask the Derana Media Network to join in protecting both the physical and spiritual beauty of the country. God bless you all. Sri Lanka and the International Monetary Fund have reached a staff-level agreement on economic policies to conclude the fifth review of the country's reform program, supported by the IMF's Extended Fund Facility. Once the review is approved by the IMF Executive Board, Sri Lanka will have access to approximately $347 million in financing, in addition to the $2 billion already received.
I would like to highlight that the staff-level agreement is subject to the approval of IMF management and the IMF Executive Board in the months ahead. Completion of the review by the IMF Executive Board requires the implementation of one prior action and the completion of financing assurances review to confirm multilateral partners' financing contributions, as well as assess adequate progress with the debt restructuring. Upon completion of the Executive Board review, Sri Lanka will have access to about $347 million, bringing the total IMF financial support under the current arrangement to approximately $2 billion. Looking ahead, it remains essential that the government continues revenue mobilization efforts and prudent budget execution. So to this end, the 2026 budget should be in line with program parameters. This requires sustained efforts to improve tax compliance, broaden the tax base, and strengthen the tax exemption frameworks. Cost recovery, electricity pricing, and SOE governance reforms remain key to contain fiscal risks. The government should embark on comprehensive structural reforms to unlock growth potential. The government should continue the steadfast implementation of governance reforms to reduce corruption vulnerabilities, including by safeguarding CIABOC's independence. On the debt restructuring front, we encourage the authorities to ensure Sri Lankan Airlines debt restructuring respects the debt targets and quickly finalize remaining agreements with the remaining official creditors. The Public Debt Management Office should be made operational soon. That will be a key step toward prudent debt management practices.
As you know, there is already a work to hold campaign going on by the CEB workers. So if Sri Lanka fails to implement these reforms that the IMF has introduced under the EFF, what kind of consequences will Sri Lanka be facing?
That is a very important development. We pay close attention to the developments around the unbundling of CEB. Obviously, it's a very crucial reform that is meant to bring more transparency and a more efficient function of the electricity sector. For our program, we tend to emphasize the cost recovery electricity pricing for the utility, for the CEB and its successor companies. This is one of the building blocks of the EFF program. It ensures that on a forward-looking basis, CEB or its successor company is not incurring financial losses. So for the fifth review, we have a continuous structural benchmark to evaluate electricity tariff submission by the CEB to the PUCSL in October, which we understand will come out soon. We will also assess in the next few weeks, in the next few months, and in November structural benchmark we had set at the time of the fourth review with respect to reviewing the electricity tariff methodology.
You also mentioned that debt restructuring is almost complete with the bilateral agreements that have been reached. But can you confirm whether Sri Lanka's debt is now sustainable?
Of the $28 billion of external debt that we have under the perimeter, now we have only $500 million left. The next step for that is to finalize bilateral OCC, Official Creditor Committee agreements, and to reach the agreements with the remaining commercial and official creditors. And these processes are underway, and we look forward to seeing more progress there.
How concerned are you on the delay in the SOE reforms?
We are heartened by the progress being done so far. We are in close communication with the government on the shape of the new legislation, and we are discussing with them the parameters of that and how it should come to fruition.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath asserts that Sri Lanka rejects all external investigations into alleged human rights violations, adding that such concerns will only be probed through a domestic procedure. Delivering a special statement in Parliament today, the Foreign Minister further stated that the government is ready to establish an independent prosecutor's office for the purpose.
First, I must say that this is not the first time a resolution against Sri Lanka has been adopted in Geneva. Since 2009, 11 resolutions concerning Sri Lanka have been passed by the UNHRC. There are a few key points to take away from this. One is that none of the previous governments have taken adequate action on this critical national issue being discussed in Geneva. By calling for a vote against this resolution, we risk rejecting the opportunity to resolve a matter that has now garnered international attention. While we reject the resolution itself, we are simultaneously working to address the issue which has been internationalized due to political motivations through a national mechanism. Immediately after the end of the war in 2009, the JVP advocated for the establishment of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to address human rights concerns. We plan to present the Truth and Reconciliation Bill to Parliament in the near future and begin proceedings through the Commission. Furthermore, the government intends to establish an independent public prosecutor's office. Let me make it clear, these actions are not aimed at war heroes who ended the conflict, nor are they targeting any particular ethnic group in the country.
Why are you deceiving the world? You haven't said a word about the provincial council election in your statement.
When I was in Geneva, I read a statement. In that statement, I clearly stated that our stand about provincial council election.
I'd like to begin by referring to recent World Bank reports about this government. Currently, 1 in every 4 families in Sri Lanka live in poverty. You claim that the cost of living would come down within 6 months. Government officials were hopeful when they were told that salaries would increase within the same period. However, the president now seems to be acting in contradiction to those statements. The government also said it would reduce electricity tariffs by 33%. But now, within just a few days, there are plans to increase electricity tariffs by 6.8%. Is this good news for the people?
We can't implement everything in the manifesto immediately after coming into power. We must operate based on priorities. Poverty didn't emerge overnight, nor did it begin in the past year. We inherited a country in disarray, a country damaged by the previous administration. As a new government made up of people who've never held power before, we've already taken significant steps to protect the democracy of this nation.
Facts regarding the Geneva resolution were presented in this house. We heard that 43 out of 47 countries spoke positively about Sri Lanka and our national policies. If that's the case, my question is, if we rejected the resolution, why couldn't we convert those supportive countries into actual votes? If the issues described by the opposition were really affecting the people to that extent, we would have seen them on the streets by now in every industry. But that is not the case. The public is hopeful and supports the government's ongoing initiatives. Nothing the opposition claimed has come true. Now we must ask, who was telling the truth, us or you? I was deeply saddened by the comments made by the foreign minister. He claimed the reason the government did not call for a vote on resolution 60/L.1 in Geneva was because there was no use. He also mentioned plans to establish an independent public prosecutor's office. Why is that necessary? Don't we have confidence in our Attorney General's department or in our current legal system? The truth is, Sri Lanka lacked the confidence to request a vote. Why? Because we didn't approach BRICS or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We have no strong international allies. We are trying to practice village-level politics on an international stage. This morning, I attended a mass and would like to share words from Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit. We must not become slaves to the IMF. They do not understand the poverty faced by our citizens. These institutions raise money by investing in countries that are already profiting in the global economic landscape. By taking loans from these rich nations, we are becoming their slaves. We must protect our self-respect. I wish to table the Cardinal's speech in Parliament. It was a historic message.
Sri Lanka Muslim Congress MP Nizam Karyappa states that Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security Ravi Seneviratne claimed before the Parliamentary Committee on High Posts that the mastermind behind the Easter attack has been identified. However, in response to the parliamentarian's claims, the Police Media Division announced that Seneviratne denies making such a statement. Despite successive governments making multiple arrests in connection with investigations into the 2019 Easter Sunday bombings, the Cardinal and the Catholic Bishops' Conference have been voicing concern over the lack of action to uncover the mastermind behind the attacks. The National People's Power government appointed Ravi Seneviratne and Shani Abesekara, who first led investigations into the attacks, as Secretary to the Minister of Public Security and Director of the Criminal Investigation Department, respectively. Subsequently, the Criminal Investigation Department reported the progress of the investigations into the attack to the Fort Magistrates Court on several occasions and obtained foreign travel bans against several officials who served in the country's intelligence services at the time of the attacks. Against this backdrop, the Parliamentary Committee on High Posts convened yesterday to deliberate on confirming Ravi Seneviratne's appointment as the Secretary to the Minister of Public Security. Sri Lanka Muslim Congress MP Nizam Kariapper in a post on X said that during the meeting he had questioned Seneviratne on the investigations into the Easter attacks and that Seneviratne had replied that the main conspirator behind the attack had been identified. However, the police media division today said that Ravi Seneviratne denies making such a claim before the Committee on High Posts. The police denied reports circulating on social media claiming that Seneviratne had stated that the mastermind behind the Easter attacks has been identified and that India was behind the incident. It informed that the IGP has been instructed to conduct an investigation into those responsible for spreading the false information and that Seneviratne's legal counsel will initiate appropriate legal action. Opinions were shared on this development in Parliament today.
I am a member of the Parliamentary Committee on High Posts. Ravi Seneviratne appeared before the committee yesterday and while answering a question raised by MP Nizam Kariapper, he stated that the perpetrator of the Easter Sunday attacks has been identified. Today, many newspapers are requesting us to comment on this matter. The police media division has released a statement claiming that Seneviratne did not say that India was behind the attacks. According to my knowledge, he did not say so. However, I request a clarification on this matter. Seneviratne answered the question raised during the proceedings of the committee. However, I believe that it is not suitable for even the Parliament to order that the findings be disclosed as they are a part of the investigation. This was tweeted by MP Nizam Kariapper. I am of the view that his action is unacceptable as we never disclose the facts discussed in the Parliamentary Committee on High Posts or any other parliamentary committee. Thorough investigations are being conducted on the Easter Sunday attacks. The findings of the investigations will be revealed shortly. Accordingly, relevant legal action will be initiated. A member of Parliament has disclosed information to the media on a matter that was not discussed during the Parliamentary Committee meeting yesterday in an unacceptable manner. The Secretary to the Minister of Public Security has already lodged a complaint with the CID regarding the matter. Legal action will be taken against those who spread misinformation and those who created this news. I guarantee that Seneviratne did not assert that India was the perpetrator of the Easter Sunday attacks. I completely reject all such insinuations.
Leader of the Pivituru Helaurume, Uday Gammampila, hails the commencement of the Bribery Commission's investigation into the controversial release of 323 containers without inspection as a landmark decision. Speaking to the media after recording a statement at the Commission today, Gammampila asserted that Minister of Ports Bimal Ratnayaka, Deputy Minister Janith Kodituakku and Director General of Sri Lanka Customs Sivali Arugoda should be questioned regarding the incident.
On several occasions, the leader of the Pivituru Helaurume, Uday Gammampila, commented on the 323 containers cleared for release from the port of Colombo without mandatory inspection. Gammampila was summoned to the Bribery Commission this morning to record a statement in relation to the complaint lodged by his party regarding the incident.
The Bribery Commission today began its investigation into the release of 323 containers without mandatory inspection, the most significant fraud committed by this government. We requested that the Bribery Commission immediately summon Minister Bimal Ratnayaka and the Deputy Minister of Ports and Civil Aviation, Janith Kodituakku, for questioning. We also requested that the Commission summon and question the Director General of Sri Lanka Customs, Sivali Arugoda, on how he certified that there were no narcotics or weapons in the released containers without any inspections. With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
29 mobile phones have been confiscated today from wards A, C and D of the Busa High Security Prison. The phones were confiscated during a joint search operation conducted by prison intelligence officers and the police special task force. Dematagoda Chaminda, an inmate currently on death row, was among the detainees from whom phones were confiscated. Mobile phones were also discovered in the cells of a large-scale drug trafficker Wele Sudha and Midigamaruan, another well-known underworld figure. Meanwhile, the Criminal Investigation Department Fund informed the Colombo Magistrates Court today that 13 bank accounts belonging to Bako Saman's wife, Shadika Lakshani, and her close associates have been frozen. According to the CID, 5 of the frozen accounts have been opened under Shadika Lakshani's name. At the hearing, the magistrate ordered Bako Saman's wife to be further remanded until October 23rd. In other local news, over 18 kilograms of narcotics were seized while in the possession of a couple arrested in Kadawada last evening. Among the seized substances were 12 kilograms of heroin, 2.4 kilograms of kush cannabis, 2.3 kilograms of hashish, and 1.4 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine. The raid was conducted based on information received by officers of the Divisional Crime Investigation Bureau, Nuwara Eliya.
The World Education Fair 2025 entrance free. Register now.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Transport, Highways, Ports and Civil Aviation reports that the Colombo port has recorded a net profit after tax of 32 billion rupees during the first 8 months of this year. The net profit earned in the first 8 months of 2024 was 18.9 billion rupees, and this year's net profit reflects an increase of 13 billion rupees, depicting a 71% growth. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority stated that the strong financial performance was driven by ongoing development projects, a 6% growth in container handling, and the completion of key infrastructure such as the Eastern and Jai container terminals, which are expected to boost future capacity. The Ports Authority attributes the higher-than-expected profit to renewed terminal service agreements, increased capacity and cost management. The earnings are expected to support plans to develop Colombo Port as a regional transshipment hub. The Colombo Bourse closed in mixed territory today with price gains in counters such as Commercial Bank, Diesel and Motor Engineering and Bukit Dara. The benchmark all-share price index climbed 0.35% to settle at 22,174.74 points. The more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 declined by 0.01% to end at 6,162.38 points. Market turnover crossed 13.3 billion rupees. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net buyers, purchasing shares worth 702 million rupees. And with that, here's a look at today's foreign exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.